Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from This But That. As this video is a podcast, there is no visual aid aside from a still image, so sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy today's podcast. Just a brief side note, this was recorded immediately after the Gotti Podcast, so we apologise if we make any unnecessary comparisons between Hearts Beat Loud and Gotti. Alright, so we just got done with recording the Gotti Podcast, so to move from that film onto something that we actually both enjoy is a little bit jarring. So sorry if we accidentally mention Gotti, but that film is on my mind still a little bit. We're transitioning from that onto a really enjoyable indie film, Hearts Beat Loud. It heavily revolves around the importance of music. It's about Frank Fisher, who is played by Nick Offerman, who's made the decision to close his album store, Red Hook Records, after 17 years in business because it's not making a profit anymore. And he personally doesn't want to do it anymore, as he reveals later on. Frank also wants to create a band with his daughter, Sam, who's played by Kirstie Clemens, and she's more than a little reluctant to go along with the idea, stating that we're not a band towards her dad. And Frank responds by creating that statement as the band's new name by uploading their song onto Spotify. And the first song title was Hearts Beat Loud. That's where the film's title comes from. This is a really enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
I think it's really charming. I like Nick Offerman a lot. I think there's a lot of good comedic beats. Ted Danson plays Dave as a local bar owner who's really good friends with Frank, and I think he's a really good character as well. He offers a bit of funny stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the movie is generally funny. I actually found it quite enjoyable.
I felt like this film is also after leaving Gotti. We had gone to a new movie with a sense of this is actually going to be good. Yeah, it was like watching the greatest film ever made in comparison to Gotti. But this film opens with Frank telling Leslie that he has to close the shop, obviously, as I've already said, and Sam's going to UCLA, and then the film sets up a romance subplot with Frank and Leslie. But before we get onto that, this one will be quite simple as to what we say non-spoiler wise. Go see this movie. This is a really enjoyable movie.
Yeah, that's good.
It's worth watching. The soundtrack is really good.
It's quite romantic, so it'd be better to watch it with a significant other of yours if you have one, or maybe just by yourself if you need a bit of a pickup.
There are a couple of kissing moments, and it's a bit strange to watch it with a friend on a Discord
call. Yeah, a bit awkward with the bros.
But it was still quite wholesome.
I'll have to watch that with my girlfriend to see what she thinks.
Yeah, and I'll watch it with my cat.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10 before we move on to the spoiler territory. This is a really great movie. This is my third time watching it. I watched it originally back when it came out. I think I rented it on Google Play, and then...
When did it come out?
It came out in 2018.
2018.
I can't remember the date, but I remember I think it was 2018 or 2017. It could be either, but either way. I remember watching it back when it came out. It was pretty close to when it came out. It was really enjoyable. I like the characters, I like the storyline, I like the music, and the pacing. I've got to say, this film does not waste time.
No, it doesn't.
And it does a really good job with the pacing.
It's a very efficient film.
Yeah, it's an hour and 37 minutes long, with credits, I think.
Yeah, with credits.
That's good. That's a good runtime for this movie. This is not a film that would survive, in my opinion, on a 3-hour runtime. There's not enough content for that.
No, I feel like it getting through, it really doesn't respect your time. It gets through everything that needs to be said, and it doesn't dwell on anything. I think that's another problem. For example, Gotti, which
Gotti's a great movie.
Dwelled on certain points and just skipped through others, but this one is very consistent in the pacing.
And also, the events are told in chronological order. Anyway, final verdict, 8 out of 10. Over to you. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say an 8 out of 10 is a reasonable score for that one.
I guess we'll get into spoilers. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, go watch it and come back to this review. Okay, so first talking point. The romance between Frank and Leslie is my least favourite aspect of the movie.
Yeah, it was very awkward. It wasn't well explained either. I feel like it was just a bit out of nowhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very, very little setup.
I mean, it's not bad per se.
It's not bad.
I like the idea of a man who's lost his wife and
he's very lonely.
Yeah,
so
he's very lonely. He wants to move
companionship.
on, and I liked that aspect of it. Frank's wife Danielle, as we know, she died in a cycling accident, and he misses her a lot. There are quite a few really good scenes in the movie where he reminisces on their time together. he looks back when he's looking for the birth certificate for Sam for UCLA, because she needs the birth certificate to enroll there. He looks through the box and it pulls on your heartstrings a little bit. And the thing is, the soundtrack in this movie, maybe it's not just because we saw Gotti, it's legitimately very good. But after seeing Gotti, any soundtrack would sound good.
Yeah, it was a good soundtrack.
It was a great soundtrack.
But yeah, going back to the point on the romance, I think another thing with the romance is that it was trying to convey that he was looking for something that wasn't there, I think, was another thing. And it did a good job, but it did require a bit of thought afterwards about it.
Because there's the scene where they're on a semi sort of date, but not a date.
Yeah,
when not a date.
Yeah.
That scene was a bit strange, but...
Yeah, it was a strange scene. And I mean, it wasn't explicitly told to you, but I think that's what was happening. He sort of thought there was something going on, but it wasn't.
Thematically.
But then she kissed him, so it all throws it into a bit of a...
She was a bit drunk, though. So.
Yeah, so yeah, it does throw it into a bit of a...
Bit of a spiral.
Bit of a weird soup.
But it's not terrible.
It's not the worst thing ever. I've certainly seen worse.
It's not the worst romance. There are a lot worse.
Yeah.
Say Victoria and John Gotti. That romance was significantly worse than this.
Yeah.
But the other romance...
Transformers movie romance.
Yeah, any Transformers movie romance.
Yeah.
The other romance that I like in this movie, Rose and Sam. I like those two together.
Yeah, I think that was very good. I mean, that also was quite quickly was thrown in your face. Yeah. With how quickly the romance progressed.
And I really respect the fact the filmmaker doesn't openly state, that she's gay. Yeah, we don't need to be told that.
Yeah, I mean, they're just dating. It's just how it is.
And the father respects it. There's no annoying plot line where he's like, you can't date a woman because, Frank's a normal person. As normal people should accept their kids being gay. Like, it's a normal thing. It's nothing out of the ordinary, especially in 2018. But
I mean,
I just enjoy that, the fact that this film doesn't have to yell in your face. It just lets it happen. And the romance is good between those two characters. I think they're very good together.
I feel like the romance with that and how it starts, like I said before, it's quite quick. It happened in a span of 5 or 10 minutes that they were together. They got together in that period.
She's at the beginning of the film, after Frank's announced that the album store is closing. It moves over to her at UCLA, or not at UCLA. That's the school that he's going to.
No, she's at the
She's at like a pre-med class or something, and then after the pre-med class, she goes to some art thing, and it shows these really cool like statues built of glass and stuff, and then she talks to Rose, and then they sort of form like a connection, and then they start dating each other gradually as the film progresses.
Very natural.
Yeah.
And it doesn't dwell on it either.
Yeah, it's a good romance. I like those two a lot. I feel like those two together really work.
A lot of chemistry too.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a cliche thing to say, chemistry, but it is what's there.
Some films have romance that in principle would be good, but the chemistry is just not there. But with this, that's not the case. The chemistry is there. The girl that plays Rose, Sasha Lane, I think that's her name. She's quite good. Kirstie Clemens, who plays Sam, she's great as well. I really like some of the lines in this movie. There are a couple of standout lines that that dialogue. First off, stop comparing this to Gotti. We have to, but
it's not a comparison.
It's not a comparison. But after seeing Gotti and some of the dialogue in that film, with the highlight being little kids go watch your meatball movie.
Yeah, spaghetti and meatballs movie.
It's such a weird piece of dialogue. But there are a couple of lines. My favourite line of the film happens later on, but one of my favourite lines is also very early on, and it's when Frank tells Sam that when jam sesh time arrives, we have to put childish stuff aside, like homework or med school. I like that line a lot. And then they go off and they start jamming out. And you get a little bit of Nick Offerman playing Ocean Man.
Yeah, it's quite cute.
But it fits it. It makes him charming. He's a very good actor, and I like him in this role a lot.
It's quite relatable too.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I've personally never been in that position, But the way
Playing
that
Ocean Man on the guitar.
yeah, of course. But I mean, he seems very natural, and it seems like something that very much could happen.
Yeah.
And
The character likes music.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very much also that something big's happened in his life, and now he's changing his life around that over time.
Yeah.
And that is also something that's very relatable for a lot of people.
And also the fact that they don't have to state that he goes like, he says like directly to someone or to the audience, I play guitar and drums. No, he just plays them. You don't need the setup of him saying that he plays instruments. It just happens, and that works a lot. There was one part that made me laugh when Sam's playing like the mix she makes at the beginning.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm just messing around. I only laugh because it sounds so professionally mixed that saying like, I'm just playing around is like a funny thing. But that's not really a criticism. It's just that her music sounds so good that saying just messing around is quite kind of a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the people though. What do you call it? A lot of people sometimes they think that there's something that they make sounds bad, and then they listen, and then somebody else is listening, like, wow, that sounds good, and then it legitimately is. I'm just messing around. That just does something great.
True. I do like the way that Frank is like attaching meaning towards her song, because she's doing the mix and then she starts singing Hearts Beat Loud. For this review, we won't jump around too much because I wrote notes on this film more than Gotti, which we just...
Yeah, Gotti was more of a discussion on how bad it was.
Yeah, this is a film, there's an actual review. I like when Frank's attaching meaning to her lyrics in Hearts Beat Loud, and she's like, you know, the lyrics are just a bunch of words, and his line, meaning, schmeaning, I want it that way. They want what? What way? Doesn't matter, it's a hit song. And I really like that line.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Frank as a character for a little bit.
Yeah, I think Frank's a good character.
I think he's a very good character. I think Nick did a great job with it. I mean, it wasn't like his traditional other roles, because, I mean, when you think Nick Offerman, a lot of people think Parks and Recreation.
Yeah. I have never seen Parks and Recreation.
You've never seen?
No.
Well, this is very different to Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's a manly man in Parks and Recreation, and it shows a really soft side of what, in comparison, I mean. And so I think it's quite interesting watching how different he is.
Yeah.
And I also think that he does a great job with it.
I think he gets great dialogue, and he's a great actor. It works together. He's a good person. I believe they have the relationship of father and daughter. It works well. They have a lot of chemistry in terms of the back and forth is quite enjoyable to watch.
I think the word that I'm looking for in trying to explain the relationships and the lines and dialogue in this film is that it's all natural.
Yeah.
It's not forced. It all just feels like something that would happen in day-to-day life.
Yeah, that's true.
It isn't like other films, for example, where it would just be, some contrived rubbish where it's
meatball movie, kids gonna go see a meatball movie.
I mean, and then some what do you call it? Let's say comic book movies, for example, where they go and they try to make something relatable to the everyday human. True. Where they're like, oh, look at me, I'm doing X thing, you do that too, which makes it cool. Yeah. I think it's all just it very grounds itself in reality.
Yeah. Peter Parker goes to high school. You did that.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, that's what the point of the film is, but at the same time, it isn't trying to force you to think that, it just does that.
Yeah. This is not a criticism of comic book movies, I'm a huge superhero fan, so... Yeah. Transitioning from Frank, we haven't talked about Ted Danson yet.
No.
I love Ted Danson.
I think his character is great comic relief.
Yeah. Dave saying he wants to go see the trees. He went to Woodstock to go to see the trees, but he's getting high with his friends, and I find that when he says I've got a new person, they're gonna fix my brain. Yeah. There's a lot of dialogue that he has that I find is really funny.
And then I feel like they did when they pulled him in at the towards the end of the movie to actually say some serious
things. Works.
It worked great because that's something that you could imagine the character saying.
Yeah, because he cares about him This is going forward a bit, and we will continue going in chronological order. But when Dave doesn't give him another bit of alcohol, he says, "This is not a professional relationship. I like you as a person.
Yeah,
And I
you're
think
my friend.
Yeah, that's a really nice scene. Ted Danson, I mean, 11 seasons of Cheers, and I've seen every episode. 4 seasons of Good Place, seen every episode. Becker, I've seen a lot of episodes of that. He's great. He's a fantastic comedy actor, and he went to bar school, whatever the equivalent is, in America before he did Cheers, I believe. So him being behind a bar and him doing all the tricks, like, you know, grabbing out the shot glass and flipping it, that's very natural to him because he did 11 seasons of Cheers, and also he did a class for that. And I like the fact that, you know, he's 70 years old. I think Ted Danson's about 70 now. He's still doing this awesome stuff. He's still cranking out these awesome roles. He's still in a lot of TV and stuff. And he's just as great as he's always been.
Yeah.
This is not just about his role in this film as Dave, but in The Good Place as Michael. He's churning out some of the funniest lines I've heard in a comedy in ages. Yeah, in this film he is fantastic, and I really love him in this movie. He's really good.
I mean, I can't really say too much about his other performances, but
yeah, you haven't seen Cheers, have you?
No.
Should watch. I mean, I could pick out like 10 episodes, classics of Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of classics of Cheers. He's a ladies' man in Cheers. Behind the bar, he hits on everybody who walks, and it's the most cliched lines you could imagine. So seeing him, you know, being like, you know, this cool dude again, reminded me a lot of his character in Cheers, Sam Malone. Anyway, transitioning from him, Sam's character, she's really good as well. She's a bit more stern. She is more adult than Frank is from a different perspective, because she, at one point, she has to be more like the parent to him than he is the parent of her.
Yeah, I mean, that's even explored in the movie. That's like quite literally in the lines. When, what was the other lady?
Leslie.
Leslie was talking about how when her kid...
You know, her one date for the night before she goes off and dates every single other tenant that she has, and then go 50-50 on the business of all the other men that she's dating.
Yeah, anyway, but with one of the... she was talking about how one of her kids also did the same thing, and I think that was a nice tie-in.
And she also did the same thing as well.
And she also did the same thing.
I was a bad person to my parents.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it makes the parent feel more like they feel less sad about their daughter or son leaving, because, you know, after a while they're like, get rid of them. I'm happy they're out of the house for once. I think she says that's just their way of making it easier for you.
Yeah.
I like that line as well. But yeah, I think Sam's a really good character. I like the fact that she still went to UCLA at the end of the film.
Yeah, I think it would have been...
It would have been really out of character for her to not go.
I honestly think that if she stayed and they did that band thing, I would not have rated the movie as highly.
Yeah, I would have knocked off like a 1.5 for that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a terrible ending.
That would have been so cliche.
Yeah, like, oh, you know, I'm going to stay here with you and Rose and all that, but Rose and her don't break up, so I assume they're long distance relationship.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie. But yeah, she sends music over digitally to Frank for him to sample and stuff. So
yeah.
I love the energy of this movie as well. There are certain scenes where I think the energy is like palpable, like you feel how the characters feel. After he places Hearts Beat Loud on Spotify, when he goes to buy the whoopie pies, I love when Nick Offerman's like, that's my song, and then he points up and he's like, and he's jamming to his own music, and like that's Sam singing. He's like so proud of her.
You can really feel
like
the
that.
emotion in that.
Yeah, it's such a good scene. And then he runs off with the whoopie pies, and the editing in this movie is really good as well. Like the way the song ends as soon as the door slams.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff. We haven't really touched on the cinematography. The cinematography is simplistic, but it works.
It does. It's not trying to be anything fancy.
No,
there's very much, like you said, simple.
Yeah, there's ambience music alongside shots of the city and stuff like that. It's nice. It's simple, it's easy. Yeah.
It doesn't look grand. It doesn't look amazing.
You're not supposed to think this city is like the biggest thing in the world. This is a nice, quaint, small little city they live in.
Yeah.
It's a good cinematography. Whoever did the cinematography, good job. They did a pretty good job. Yeah. Especially with a film that is more like indie and doesn't have a huge budget, because the budget of this was $2 million. So that, they didn't have to work. They didn't have a lot to work on. At
It's
least
5 times less than the best movie of all time.
Oh, Gotti.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 million should have gone to this film instead.
Yeah.
So they make more music and actually make more good stuff.
I would like to have a soundtrack for that. I've just listened to that in my spare time.
Or Hearts Beat Loud.
Yeah, like some of the songs.
Yeah, they're on YouTube and Spotify and stuff. There's a scene after he's plays the song on Spotify and everything. He's going back and finding his old notebook because, as you can see, you can feel his energy in wanting to make a band again with his daughter because his wife passed away and they were in a band together.
Yeah.
And he's searching for all his old books and all his old stuff, and he finds his old notebook and it's full of poems and stuff. I like how she makes fun of him for writing poems as well.
Yeah, a bit harsh.
I find that funny there. And he has this song and it's about his wife. And I think that's one of the best scenes is when he plays the song to her. It drags a little bit because it's a bit long, but it still works for me.
Yeah.
I really like that she doesn't serve a huge purpose, but the grandmother of Sam, I like. One of my favourite scenes, or even my favourite scene in the movie, is when she tells the story of how she met her husband Eddie, because Sam's going through a new romance, I guess, and she's tying that back to her old one, and I think it's a really sweet scene. I like it.
It's very cute, and I mean the grandma. The purpose she plays isn't big, but it's important.
It sort of helps to get the characters in different locations when they want to be. Like after Nick Offerman goes to Leslie's house and says like he gets a bit angry about how she's still dating other people. I get his point, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you get his point.
He was a bit harsh with it.
It was a bit harsh, and he was a bit unfair, really.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, I don't know if they were.
They hadn't established
like I said
anything
before, it's not like they were actually in a relationship, or if he was reading too far into it, or what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, she even calls him her friend at one point. So
yeah, exactly.
It's clear that she personally doesn't think more of him than just a friend. But then he gets a bit annoying because he thought that there was a bit more going on.
After all that, she has to bail the grandmother out of jail.
And she doesn't have to do it, but she's nice enough to do it.
She's nice enough to do it. And that helps, and that makes me like her a lot more after, the film sort of making me turn against her halfway through. But there is a lot of good moments with Leslie and Nick. I mean, Leslie and Frank. I call him Nick because I'm so used to saying Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good scenes with them after that takes place. And it's not really stated whether or not they're going to have a romance together. I don't think it needed to be stated.
No.
But, yeah.
I think that's one of the things that definitely benefited from being ambiguous. Yeah.
We skipped past another really good scene. There's just a bunch of really good scenes.
I mean, the whole thing's really good, so you can't talk about all of it. You just have to pick.
Pick pieces. There's a scene where Rose and Sam are talking and she's listening to Hearts Beat Loud and she likes it, etc. And they want to go biking. And she has a fear of cycling because her mother died in an accident. And there's a lot of emotion there. And I think both of the actresses do a really good job of conveying that emotion.
Yeah.
She breaks down a little bit when she's talking to her.
I think my favourite part about that scene was how when Sam started crying, it wasn't she just immediately started bawling her eyes out over it. But instead, it was like a slow progression. Like she got really sad and then she started crying.
Because that's more how a normal person
reacts,
realistically. Well, actually, who am I to say how someone's going to react to something like that? But, in my mind at least, that's how I think.
Personally, for me, that's how it works. So, there you go. I mean, you don't immediately... I mean, you just sort of... Sometimes certain things bring back memories and that just makes you sad. And I think that was definitely one of those moments. Yeah.
And also the fact that she's showing her the song means that she's getting closer and closer to thinking that the band could be a real thing. At least that's how I thought of it. Like she wouldn't show her the song if she didn't think that this was going somewhere, if she didn't think that it was starting to be good.
Yeah.
And that's a good way of sort of showing that the band is getting a bit bigger
than what she thought it would be.
Yeah. The scene where Joe, don't know his last name. Joe Mama is what I'm guessing his last name
Joe
is.
Mama.
It's what we both said in the audio when he first entered in. And he enters the album store and he wants to know about Frank, and he sort of starts. It's not said on screen, but Frank rushes off to Sam, and then he's explaining that he's making an offer for them to record an EP, and she doesn't want to do that just because she needs to go to UCLA in a week's time. At that point in the film, she's going. She doesn't have the time to do that.
No, and I feel like in that I think Frank's being quite unrealistic in expecting her to go with the band, and the fact that he's sort of had his time.
Yeah.
And it's time for Sam to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And even though
you get her point of it.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd side with her more so.
I would definitely side with her over siding with Frank. I think
the only thing that would still make me side with Frank is that even with the financial aid package, it's still $12,000 for her to go to the university.
Yeah, and that's per year, of course.
Yeah. But I'd still side with her.
Yeah.
Because she makes better points.
It's her own life.
Yeah.
And so she's the one who should pick what to do.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good point. I mean, you can see both sides, but I see Sam's more than Frank's, even though I like both characters. After that scene, there's sort of like a bit where he mentions the mother, and then she gets a little bit angry, rightfully a little bit angry, like if she was here, she'd want you to do this.
Which, you don't know if that's true or not, but either way, it's extremely rude.
Yeah, it's a rude thing to do. Then, after that, Ted Danson sort of gives more motivation to him. There's also the really good scene where Sam's riding the bike with Frank playing the music over the top.
Yeah.
I really like that scene.
And that ties in a little later too.
Yeah. There's just so many good scenes. Like, I'm not even talking about it, almost bumped me up to 8.5 just thinking about it.
Yeah, it just makes it better.
I really like when he's got the closing gown. So after they bailed out the grandmother, and he has to sell everything. He's got all the albums for $3 laid out.
Yeah.
And she says my favorite line of the film. The Titanic, there was a band playing while it was sinking.
Yeah.
That is the best line of the movie for me.
I can see why, yeah.
And they play together, and Rose is there as well. Leslie shows up. It's a really good way of tying the film, doing a really good job of ending the movie with a bunch of the characters that have been set up over its runtime, brings everything together. The movie ends really well.
It neatly ties up the whole thing.
Yeah.
And makes sure that you don't forget all the characters that led up to that moment.
It's a great ending.
It is.
Very happy with the fact she didn't stay.
That would have been
that
very
would be
weak.
stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the ending, the recording, so after this, we're jumping a little bit ahead. After they do the really good job of performing, I think in her mind she sees that they are really good together, and they can make really good music. So she continues more of she performs solo at the very end, a sort of maybe giving herself more exposure for her and Frank. And I think that's the best way they could have really ended it. I can't really think of another way they could have ended it.
No, I think that was good. I mean, it also shows that rather than just relying on her dad, which would have been a bad idea because, I mean, her mum's not around, her dad's not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And that she can keep doing this music thing herself.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. She sings Hearts Beat Loud more in a ballad kind of way than the way they've been doing it with all the different instruments, with the guitar and drums, and the film ends.
Yeah.
Roll credits. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, I think this is a really good movie. Talking about it has really brought my mood up after talking about Gotti for so long. This movie's great. Check it out, 100%. Well, obviously, you would have checked it out if you listened to this, but watch it again even. That's how good it is. I saw it 3 times, and I think about watching it even a 4th time. It's a good movie to watch when you're down.
Yeah.
I think.
Very much a feel-good movie.
Yeah, and I think in the year of 2020, you need a feel-good movie right now.
Yeah,
as the thumbnail declares, I think a critic states on the thumbnail, because I remember vividly, the feel-good movie we need right now. And as much as that applied in 2017 or 18 when it came out, it applies even more now.
Yeah.
This fantastic movie. I loved this.
Yeah.
Talking about it more, I loved it even more. 8.5. There are some issues here with some storylines. Leslie and
Leslie was a bit weird.
yeah, Leslie. No, don't dislike her.
I mean, no, not her as
No.
a person, but like the tie-in.
The
with
romance and stuff.
Frank, yeah, was a little.
That
weird.
was strange. I loved Ted Danson. I loved how he let him have a job at the bar, and he goes off to go see the trees again, as he says. Great way of ending it. Good way of tying everything together. Leslie shows up. They have a sort of drink together. All the issues they've had across the film, all the conflict is resolved, and the film ends with a ballad. It's done.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Great.
8.5. As I said, there's very little that I really dislike about this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, great overall.
Yeah. I'd give it an 8. I mean, if I watch it again, I'll probably give it an 8.5. I'm not 100% sure. Just need to take another look at what I didn't like about it again, to solidify my opinions, because, one watch is a bit hard. If something like Gotti, all you need is one watch. But for this...
No, God, you need to watch it 10 times to truly understand the inner complexities of that film.
But yeah, talking about this, yeah, I should definitely watch it again, and I'll probably raise what I think of it.
Yeah. Next week... Jonker, as we jokingly refer to it as, Joker and Taxi Driver, and I'll leave you on this with a cliffhanger. And don't answer if you already know either of us in real life. Who do you think likes Joker and dislikes it? Because one of us dislikes it, one of us likes it.
I think you're the one who likes it, Or do I like it?
I've already outlined the fact I like comic book movies a lot in the previous part, so what could it be? You pick, whoever's listening to this, you pick who you think likes it, who you think dislikes it, leave a comment, might even put a poll up on the Twitter. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next podcast.